All right, guys. So I want to record this video because there's a lot of you out there that are very nervous about ordering from China, right? Ordering online. You're just daunted by the entire experience, and I want to help you overcome that, right? And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience dealing with Chinese suppliers, and maybe you can take something from it, right? So I've been purchasing products now online since 2016. So like I've done a lot of different deals in that time, right? My very first product was dog whistles, right? So they were like really low cost, really simple, and they got shipped in via air, right? And I've learned so much since then, and I would do things so differently now, but I was so happy with them, and they worked well for me at the time. But now things are just a little bit different, and maybe with everything's going on in the world, there's just different things we need to be aware of, right? But alas, right? This is how I do it now, right? This is how I'd find a good supplier for a product, right? If I wanted to, okay? So the first things first is you don't have to go to China, right? Just get that out of your head. I'm not saying you should never want to go to China, but I'm just saying you don't have to, right? I was actually talking with a student this morning, a really cool guy, has built a great brand and is building a great brand, right? I'll be dropping his video on this channel somewhere, the chat. But basically I was saying that, I'd love to go over to China sometime and purchase a product and do deals and stuff, but you don't have to, right? It's more of an experience, right? Whereas by and large, if you want to find a supplier, you can do it all from your home, from your laptop, from your computer, right? From your phone if you want to. So the tool I use primarily, not the only tool, but the primary point of contact to find suppliers is a tool or a website, a platform called Alibaba. Now, Alibaba is a B2B tool, and it basically connects people like me and like you with manufacturers and trading houses located around the world, but primarily in China, right? So far, I have struggled to find local suppliers that can make the products I want at the price I can afford to pay in order to sell them at a price my consumers can afford or want to pay, right? So if you find that for me, that secret place, please let me know, because it's always good to have extra places, but by and large, it's China, right? And the Chinese are great people to deal with. I'm being completely honest. I have found them very trustworthy by and large. There's some bad apples, but there's bad apples everywhere. By and large, I find them really good to deal with, and they can do things that I just can't get done anywhere else, right? They can completely customize products and, turn your dreams into a reality, right? I digest, right? Or digest. Yeah, that's the word, right? Basically, I use Alibaba. So I type into Alibaba the product I'm looking for. So, for example, I'm not going to get it here. I will. So, by and large, right? See this here. This is item here, right? This is a chess or drafts board, right? So I could find a supplier for that exactly as it is, right? And I go onto Alibaba and I type in drafts board or chessboard, right? And you'll start seeing back lots of different examples, right? You find the one that's nearest to like the product you want, and you open a new tab. And I just keep doing that till I find a number of suppliers, and I contact those suppliers with an email, with a template that I've written. So basically just introducing myself, stating my goals. So I want to move into this market. I'm a business and I want to move into this market. I sell primarily in X, Y, and Z, and I'm looking for a reliable supplier. The product should be made of wood. It should be this dimension. It should be, what else? Whatever. Like, it's specific to each product, right? And I'm just looking for a long-term relationship. Send that off, right? The first introduction doesn't need to be too detailed. Just a basic kind of introduction of what you're looking for, right? And they'll come back to you, right? So if you reach out to 10 people, very quickly about 2 or 3 suppliers will be like, these people are the people I want to deal with, right? Whereas 7 of them, they're just not really replying right. There's poor communication, and they're not listening to you when you're asking questions. They're just sending back generic stuff, right? And we don't want that, right? Because imagine something goes wrong, right? Like, what are you going to get? If you're going to spend a couple of thousand, 10,000, 15,000, whatever you spend on the product, you at least want to know that if something goes wrong, you've got someone that you can actually talk to, right? So the 2 or 3 are communicating well, they're answering questions, you're building a relationship, right? At that point, I generally, I ask for a sample, right? And that is just to ascertain, like, it's not all talk. Like, these people actually can supply me what I want. So I get the sample, I get it shipped here. Generally it costs a couple of hundred. It's just the way it is, right? Samples seem to be expensive, but a good supplier will always say, if you move forward an order, I'll refund you the sample cost, right? Maybe they do that because they get a lot of tire kickers. I do not know, but either way, don't quib. If the sample's $50 or it's $200, obviously item specific, just move forward with it. It's just the way it is, right? So the sample arrives, you review it, and then if you're happy, you then have to just pick which supplier you want to move forward with, right? Like all things being equal, if the product was the same, the pricing was the same, the port was the same, everything was the same, I just pick the supplier that has the best terms. So payment terms. Ideally, I want deposit to begin manufacture, and I want the balance upon completion. But likewise, I'm happy to move forward with any supplier as long as, the deal is right for me, right? And once the product is made, right? One more thing. If I move forward with a supplier, they have to be willing to use perhaps Alibaba Trade Assurance. Doesn't mean we'll use it, but I'd like if they were willing to use it. And likewise, because that means they've nothing to hide. They might say, well, we'll charge a little bit extra for that. And that's fine, but it just kind of shows where they're at, right? And number two, that they're open to a third-party inspection taking place of the product before you pay the balance. So after manufacture. And the reason I say that is because I've had a few products whereby that didn't take place. And when something goes wrong in the manufacture, right? No one's fault, but sometimes things happen. And the product is in, for example, the Amazon warehouse in the US, as it was in my case, that costs thousands to fix. And if it's even fixable, right? Whereas the problem could maybe be solved in China for $200, right? So we want a supplier that's willing to work with us and allow that to take place. If they don't allow that to take place or they're really resistant to it, it's like, well, I don't think you're right for me, right? And there's always another supplier, right? There's always another supplier. Again, I want the supplier that is going to be asking me questions. So like making me think about the product, making me think about how we can improve it. So saying like, instead of using this, use this, or have you considered this, or, is that the best material for the job? And I always tell the supplier, I'm looking for a long-term partner and I'm looking for a quality product. Do not beat them down on price. They're real people. They have livelihood and they have a business to run. And if we beat them down on price, yes, they might lower the price, but the reality is they're lowering the quality of the product. They'll just take a little bit more material. They'll use a cheaper plastic, and all that will compound over time to actually have an inferior product. I have learned over the years that having a high quality product and pay a little bit extra for it trumps everything. I've seen that with my mountain bike goggles, the Apex brand that we've just launched. Like, we have got, every single review has been a 5-star, but we left nothing out of the product development. Like, we spent, like every time it's like, should we include that? Yeah, include it. Like, we basically doubled the cost of manufacture of that item by including things to make it better and better and better for the consumer. But that's meant we've got no returns and we've got no negative reviews, right? So please don't force your supplier to do that to you, because they will do it for you, but it'll cost you on the other end. And I prefer, be the best for your consumer. And that means being the best for your supplier. And that means, working together as a partnership, right? I suppose to close it off, just make sure the supplier knows that you are looking for a long-term relationship. You are looking for a reliable supplier, but you're looking for them to support you at the beginning as you test the product in the market. And if you go with a lower MOQ initially, which I recommend, I don't recommend ordering thousands of units. Order a small quantity just to test product viability, product market fit, right? Your supplier should support you in that. And they also may want to charge you a little bit extra for that, lower quantity. But that's okay, right? I don't mind paying a little bit extra per unit as long as I can test the product in the marketplace. And once I can do that, I'm happy, right? Because it's just about tests, as I said, right? So that's kind of how I do it. That's how I test. That's how I find reliable suppliers and then ultimately test the product, right? But it's all about finding reliable suppliers first. I've had experiences with suppliers that aren't as reliable, and it's just not worth it. You need good suppliers, because when there's a problem, they sort it. When there's a problem with the product, they sort it. When there's a problem with customs or anything at all, they help you sort it. Whereas if it's not a reliable supplier, or if you can't even understand them, you can't solve it. So guys, I hope this video is of value. Hope you found it interesting. Any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'm building businesses like this for people all the time, working with people. If you're interested in learning more about it and just learning about all the whole ecosystem of launching a brand online, a portfolio of products, and building an asset like this, just go down below in the comments. You'll see a link to a page where you can learn more about what we do and how we can help people do that. But nonetheless, hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care.